So this is the 538 forecast, and as you can see, it has a series of interesting sections. The first is just a little quick infographic, which shows a series of scenarios in which Trump could win. So these 5 are Trump victories, followed by scenarios in which Biden wins, and you can see there are many more options for Biden to win than Trump in this little infographic. But they start with something about how Joe Biden's lead in the national polls has narrowed slightly since the Republican National Convention, but overall polls show a relatively stable race, with most state-level polls, excluding those in Florida, containing good news for Biden. Then continues on. Here, there's a great infographic. Biden is favored to win the election, and they simulated the election 40,000 times to see who wins most often. The sample of 100 outcomes below gives you a good idea to the range of scenarios that their model thinks is possible. So in those 100 outcomes that they've shown you, 25 of those 100 Trump wins, and 75 of those 100 Biden wins. And if you sort of zoom in on each of the bubbles, you can see when Biden wins, he's winning 365 to Trump's 187, or 394 to Trump's 144, etc. By sweeping the coastal states and the Rust Belt mostly, plus a few others like Florida. But yeah, his path to victory is coastal plus Rust Belt plus Florida. And then you can see the models in which Trump won, which he basically grabs the center of America minus Illinois, and a few other states, and sometimes he grabs Maine as well in these models in which he wins. So this is what a Trump victory would look like for those of you who are interested. You can press pause on this video and just pause any of these particular graphics and take a look at what you would need in order to win. If you're a Trump voter or if you're a Biden voter, then these are the various methods in which Biden could win this 2020 election on the map. Anyway, so we scroll down and it says every outcome in our simulations, all possible electoral college outcomes for each candidate with higher bars showing outcomes that appeared more often in our 40,000 simulations. So there's the 270 electoral college votes bar, and Trump wins here and Biden wins here. And more bars to the right of the 270 line mean simulations where that candidate wins. Some of the bars represent really weird outcomes, but you never know. And so you can see Trump, when he wins sort of in the simulations where he can win. He can win up to about 300 and let's say 70, maybe 396-ish over here. Whereas Biden has possibilities where he can win up to 600 electoral college votes, or at least 550 or something like that. So this is a really great graphic, which I love. And this is the winding path to victory. So instead of putting the most Trump states, sort of heavy states over here, and the most Biden heavy states over here, and then putting them in a line, which sometimes can be a little hard to read, this is in a way more intuitive. States that are forecasted to vote for one candidate by a big margin are at the ends of the path, so it's the same as that straight line, while tighter races are in the middle. Bigger segments mean more electoral college votes, and you can trace the path from either end to see which state could put one candidate over the top. So you can see the size of these things. Texas, of course, has a lot of electoral college votes, 38, and California, massive amount, 55, as you can see in the pop-out that you can see. But most importantly, if you are sort of a Biden guy, you can see here are the states where he's strongest in. So he's strongest in D.C., for example, in California. And here are the states where he's basically favored to win. Not necessarily going to win, but he's got, his whatever it is. Here he's got a 52% forecasted vote share, etc. And what you can see is up to North Carolina, this is the Biden victory that people are talking about. It includes the sort of on-the-fence states such as Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nebraska's 2nd District, Florida, and North Carolina. And so Trump's sitting there with his strongest seat is Nebraska's 3rd District, oddly enough, followed by Wyoming, etc., and all of these states. But if you're a Trump voter, then you could actually see a pretty easy path to victory here. And that would involve grabbing for Trump. He would have to grab North Carolina, Florida, Nebraska's second district, Arizona, Pennsylvania, or Wisconsin. I think even Wisconsin would get him over the margin. And that's interesting because he won Florida in the last election. Florida, again, was tipped for, I think, Hillary in the 2016 election. And it was Trump who won it. And here again, it's very close. Trump at 48.6% of the popular vote, and Biden at 50.6%. So if he were to do some form of rally or something to drum up support in these states, there would be a Trumpist path to victory, I guess. I mean, it's not hard to see him winning Florida, so that's already kind of, putting him over. And then Wisconsin and North Carolina are only two states that he has to campaign in to sort of seal that. And then Nebraska's second district. I mean, he's got Nebraska's third district, so he could probably, rally over there and try and convince maybe, the second district to vote as the third is. All that means is that Nebraska isn't necessarily a firmly blue state. It's one of the strongest red states in parts. Arizona is Trump on 47.6% against Biden's 51.1%. Can he really win that? Well, some people think he can. Most people think he can't. Pennsylvania is Biden's home state. So Biden's at 52% against Trump's 48%. That's a pretty tough one. Wisconsin, Trump at 52, Trump at 46.6 against Biden's 52.4. So Florida, Trump's only about 1.4 points away. North Carolina, Trump is 0.8% away from beating Biden. Arizona, Trump is, according to this, 0.4 plus 2 plus, so 3.4 plus 3.5. 3.5% away from Biden. Nebraska's second district, Trump is only about 2% away from Biden. Pennsylvania, Trump is around 4.5%, is that? 2, 3, 4. Yeah, around 3-4%. Wisconsin, Trump is about 6.6% away. And Minnesota, Trump is again sort of 6% away. So North Carolina, I can see a potential for Trump winning. Florida, I see a potential, as he did last time, for winning. Arizona, he could win if he really drummed up support. In Nebraska's second district, yeah, he could get that. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, I think he has a better shot in Wisconsin than Pennsylvania. Partly because Pennsylvania is Biden's home state, but also partly because it's rural Pennsylvania who votes red. And, Pennsylvania, I'm pretty sure Pennsylvania's urban areas are where Pennsylvania's momentum is, and Biden's strong in those areas. Whereas I don't think the rural areas, rural working class areas necessarily, would vote Trump post-COVID. So, because they've probably been hit by that pretty hard. It's also got a tipping points thing over here. But the vote margin thing is really cool because if what they had done is put it horizontally, it would have been, first of all, very long to see it. And secondly, yeah, I don't know, it just wouldn't show you how he's just got to snake his way through if you want Trump to win. Otherwise, if you want Biden to win, this is looking pretty strong for the Biden supporters. And here they have how the forecast has changed, and they have a chance of winning here. And the forecast updates at least once a day, and whenever we get a new poll. Click the buttons to see the ways each candidate's outlook has changed over time. And you can see here that the chance of winning for Trump around June 2nd was sitting at a 29 in 100 chance of winning, and the chance of winning for Biden was at 70 in 100. And it then drifted downward, and Biden was at 72 against Trump's 27. Actually, it had drifted upward here. Biden was at 78 in 100 against Trump's 22 in 100. And then it was narrowing here. Biden was at 69 in 100 against Trump's 31 in 100. So it was, 1/3 to 2/3 sort of odds. But the odds have changed again. Biden's chance of winning is 75 in 100, or 3/4, against Trump's chance of winning, which is only 25 and 100, or 1/4. You also have the electoral votes, so they're basically the projections of how many electoral votes they're going to get. And in June 1st, it was sort of Biden's going to pick up 323 electoral votes. 270 is what you need to win, against Trump's 215, so Biden would have won the election under those projections. But now it's sort of Biden sitting at 329, which is much more, I think, than his initial 323, and he's sitting at 329 against Trump's 209. So Biden's had his position strengthened somewhat in terms of projected electoral vote total, according to their models. And then popular vote sort of has stayed more or less the same. Trump started off maybe on June 1st at 46%, 46.2% against Biden's 52.5%. And now we're looking at Trump at 45.9% against Biden's 52.7%. There are also, this is a very nice card over here. It gives you some weird and also not so weird possibilities, and the chances that these situations will crop up. So Trump winning the popular vote could occur in 14 and 100 of their runs through their model, regardless of whether he wins the Electoral College. So if they run their model over 100 times, I'm assuming 14 of them, Trump actually wins the popular vote. But Biden wins the popular vote in 86 out of 100 of their runs. So Biden's much more tipped to win the popular vote. Wouldn't be surprising given that Hillary also won the popular vote in 2016. And Biden, I think, is a more popular candidate than Hillary across the board. If Trump wins more than 50, that Trump would win more than 50% of the popular vote is a 10 in 100 chance. That's it. Whereas Biden winning more than 50% of the popular vote is 81 in 100 chance. Trump winning in a landslide, interestingly enough, is less than 1 in 100. There is no landslide, according to these models, for Trump. There's just it's less than 1 in 100. There's just no chance, according to these models, that Trump could possibly win in a landslide. Whereas Biden winning in a landslide, 30 in 100. So out of 100 runs they run, 30 of them have Biden winning in a landslide, which is pretty powerful, given that Trump is less than 1 in 100. Trump winning the popular vote but losing the Electoral College is less than 1 in 100, whereas Biden winning the popular vote but losing the Electoral College is 11 in 100, and that's just because of the Electoral College math. No one winning in the Electoral College, so no candidate getting 270 electoral votes and Congress deciding the election, is less than 1 in 100 chance. Trump winning at least one state that Clinton won in 2016 is a 39 in 100 chance, so that's kind of interesting. You know, Clinton's won that state in 2016, and there's a sort of 4 in 10 chance that Trump could repeal sort of Clinton's state from 2016. So people who just did not vote for Trump in 2016, there's still a chance he could turn at least one of those states. Biden winning at least one state that Trump won in 2016, 90 in 100 chance, which is reflected in that kind of weakening of the Rust Belt. The Rust Belt was very strongly, remember, in favor of Trump in 2016. Well, maybe not very strongly, but they certainly were in favor of him. And the idea here is that the current polls and models are showing that support for Trump that existed in 2016 appears to be weakening, according to the polls and according to the models. Models could be wrong, polls could be wrong, but that's what the models and the polls are showing. The map stays exactly the same as it was in 2016, less than 1 in 100 chance. Super interesting. It means things are changing. And the election hinges on a recount, a 5 in 100 chance. So where candidates are within half a percentage point or in one or more decisive states. So there's a chance that we'll see sort of a hung sort of election. So who's ahead in the national polls? Our model relies mainly on state polls, which it combines with demographic, economic, and other data to forecast what will happen on election day. If you want to see a snapshot of what voters are thinking right now, with no fancy modeling, check out the national polls. And then they've got states with the closest races. So if you're Biden or Trump, you're looking at sort of trying to get as much support as possible in these states. If you're Trump, you're desperate to get any support that you can in these particular states. So North Carolina, Ohio, Florida, Georgia, Arizona, Iowa, Texas, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And a lot of people are saying sort of North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, and Wisconsin are where Trump's really going to be focusing his energies, trying to tip them over. So that's the 538 2020 model page, and that's where it currently is. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and thanks for watching.